Hey everyone, welcome to the first Our Kingdom Hearts Subreddit AMA here with Bl00dyBizkitz. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you're all excited because I sure am. So the way we're going to approach this is Bloody's going to pick out some questions that he'd like to answer and go ahead and answer those. I'll ask some, he'll answer some. We'll be taking questions from the Reddit post as well as the YouTube chat and his streams chat over on Twitch. So, without further ado, I should probably mute that. Let's jump right into it. So would you like me to go ahead and ask you the first question here? All right. Oh yeah, hey, so yeah, introductions real quick. So I'm Kaiiku. I'm the co-owner of the Kingdom Hearts and KHUX subreddits. For your stream's knowledge, I'm sure whoever's tuning into our YouTube channel here knows about it. All right, so first question, we're gonna knock it out real quick, real smooth. What do you think of critical mode out of 10? Yeah, I know, I'm terrible. Also, I was muted here. What is the issue here? Isn't it picking it up? Minor technical difficulties, not sure why. Oh, that might be it. Alright.
Hello. What's up?
I'm gonna unmute my end here just to see. Alright.
Hello.
Oh, we're good. Right, chat?
Okay.
We're good? Alright, excellent start. Moving on. Sweet. Okay, sorry. I guess we probably have to rewind. So again, out of 10 critical mode.
My initial reaction's like probably I want to say like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Probably more like a 6 out of 10. Simply because it's definitely the positives are it's definitely a challenge.
Right.
And it's really the definitive way to play Kingdom Hearts 2 because of the abilities that you get at the very start. So you start off with all of your reprisals. So counter kick, counter impact, counter just the counter strike. All three of those. You also get risk dodge right out the gate. You get aerial recovery, so you don't have to wait until Toy Box to get that, which is super helpful because
Yeah.
that's like a gigantic pain in Olympus for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely felt.
What is it? Damage control, combo master, and then the three additional critical mode abilities. Like it definitely feels like your kit as Sora is more complete when you're playing on critical mode. So that's definitely a positive. The negatives are all of everything else about the game's issues, such as like getting hit off screen by some attack that wasn't telegraphed very well, or random bits of like enemy super armor, or a lot of weird jank about the game, especially towards end game. Like the Keyblade Graveyard boss fights, like a lot of those fights were just like really brutal, and I think a lot of it wasn't really just that they were like harder and they were more of a genuine challenge. A lot of it was just really artificial, and instead of taking the fight to the enemies and trying to be a bit more aggressive, you find yourself just camping a lot more and playing way more of a hit and run game, and that I think is like extremely frustrating, especially with just all the other things that were nerfed on critical mode, such as your MP is halved, so magic in general is just kind of magic spam is worse now. Which I guess is like a good thing for some people, but it's actually it's really a bad thing because it limits you so heavily. As well as God, what else? I'm trying to think.
A part of me was wondering if the magic being halved thing was really necessary.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of I think a lot of people will initially see that and they're like, okay, well this is great because fire spam was so useful before, but now people aren't going to be able to rely on that. Well, now instead people are using links a lot more often because magic just isn't as what is it, your MP bar being cut in half, you don't get nearly as many casts, but you can still get a link off. So people just kind of see that and they're just like, well, I'm going to use a link instead. So it limits you, but it's the next best thing just kind of becomes the best thing that you can use on critical mode. And that's kind of the ultimate issue, I think. Is that the nerfing of like the situation command arrows and MP and stuff like that. It just means that whatever is the next best thing, the next best like broken mechanic that you have at your disposal is what you're going to be abusing more often. That's just a lot of like I found myself just using a lot of just counter guard and camping a bunch, and then I would get my 2 charges, and then I would use the Wrathful Flurry, and I would just spam that over and over and over again, and it worked, but it definitely didn't feel very it didn't feel very satisfying because it didn't feel like I got to be aggressive or change up my gameplay at all.
So what do you think then? Kind of this is interesting because it's the first time we have this, but what do you think about potentially Ultima weapon from level 1? Like, do you think that makes a big difference? Do you, like...
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can shot lock so many things like at the very start and just like one-shot whole mobs of enemies. It's so OP at the start of the game.
Okay. Have you ever found yourself just like hugging a wall so that you're seeing where things could hit you from? Because the hit out of screen stuff is... I've heard complaints.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I'm not hugging a wall, but I'm definitely... like the best example that I can bring up is the doll fight in Toy Box. You remember the doll fight?
Oh yeah, the best girl fight.
Yeah, exactly. That, and there's all the other Heartless and toys that are running around the fight. So you have to pay attention to all those guys at the same time that you're focusing on the doll. So what I would do is I would target the doll because if you keep your eye off of her, she can easily one-shot you with all of her moves. And then I just had to back up a lot. Like, I just had to back up so that all of the other enemies were in frame so that I wouldn't get tagged from the back or something like that because I was focusing all my attention on the doll. So, I mean, I'm not really grabbing a wall and just kind of like camping right there, but I'm definitely just keeping my distance and making sure that I can see as many things as possible.
All right, yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's move on to, I guess, another question. Do you want to pick one? There's some from something about cooking over on YouTube, or I don't know. Your choice.
Let me see. I can, what is it? I have the Reddit thread pulled up, so I'm gonna try and like just pull one of the first things I can see. I'll just pick what is it? AZ Leapy Cactus's question. Okay. If you want to ask it, or you want me to read it off?
Sure, I'll ask it. Do you think KH3 is a step in the right direction, or do you think that everything has gone downhill since the end of 2 Final Mix?
Man. That's a tough question. I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. In the sense that it feels KH3 is the closest that the closest game that to like KH1 and KH2 that we've gotten in a long time. And I think a lot of that just has to do with, combo modifiers, the MP bar being back there like normal, and what is it? Just, I don't know. It's just the ability system being back and everything. Like, I wasn't even sure going into KH3 we were going to get abilities. Like I was totally worried about that, but seeing that was like, okay, well, you know, this it definitely, it seems like it's like KH2 and KH1. So I would say it's a good step in that direction. It's just they threw together all these different mechanics from games previous, like shot locks from Birth by Sleep and flow motion from Dream Drop and all that other stuff. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just they don't really play well together. They don't have very good synergy. They don't go well together. A lot of the times they're just very, very rigid mechanics that only work well on their own. So if I back up and I want to use a shot lock, I can't be comboing or anything like that. Like I can't be using magic or comboing or any of that sort of stuff. I have to back up and then do a full shot lock and just kind of not do any active gameplay. So it's that sort of thing where it just doesn't, they don't really mesh well together unless you're talking about like air step or something like that, in which case air step definitely feels a little bit more active and it feels like it's more of the, it's part of the moment to moment gameplay.
Interesting. See, I thought like generally everything kind of worked well together. Some things were definitely more awkward to use than others, and also a lot less intuitive to use. And sometimes, like I'll be honest, I got through the entire game, I think on Proud, and I basically never used links. And then suddenly it's like, oh, they're kind of relevant now, and it's like, oh, what do they do again?
Right.
And so
yeah.
like flow
No.
motion was one of those too.
Oh yeah. Did you not use flow motion that much?
Not that much. Occasionally, I find myself like spinning on a post or something, but
I gotcha.
like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing. No, I had the same exact experience with you when it comes to links. I totally didn't use them at all. Mostly because you had just a fat stack of MP. So why would you not use that on just magic? That's kind of like,
Yeah,
that was my thought process.
Yeah, exactly. Like Thundaga and like Faraga and like fucking, you don't need anything else basically.
Yeah, no, spells were just so good that, and especially the fact that links required the whole MP bar to use. So you couldn't use a spell and then like think, oh, I want to use a link now, because you needed the whole stack to use it in the first place.
Yeah. I'll okay, I'll let you pick the next question again.
All right. Let me see. There's one question in the YouTube chat. I'll go ahead and throw that out there.
Okay.
I'll actually like copy and paste it into my own Twitch chat so that people can see it. But yeah, it's Matthew Gonzalez. Yo, BB fan here. How would you fix cooking in your own opinion? GG's. Have a good day. So actually, yeah, I was talking about this earlier on stream. I mean, this kind of gets into whole, you know, just damage scaling in general. Like, have you seen any people playing level 1 at all?
Yeah. Holy moly.
Right. So do you know like how the damage is really, really bad?
Oh, yeah.
And
It's
you
awful.
basically need to use like cooking and Keyblade Forge in order to do like decent damage, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess that's the sort of thing where the game itself doesn't compensate for you being on level 1, and it doesn't scale that damage appropriately, especially considering how much health the bosses have. So I would just rather, the way that I would do cooking is I would rather the game be scaled, damage scales the same way that it was in 2FM, or like to where you can do like pretty decent damage and in comparison to how much health the bosses have. So damage is scaled well. And then for cooking, I would honestly make it so that cooking gave you special abilities as opposed to just flat damage buffs. So like maybe like you cook something and you eat it, and for like a temporary amount of time you get like attack haste or something like that, where Sora's like normal combo is like double the speed or something like that. Like the Ventus D-Link in Birth by Sleep, where if you leveled it up once and you use the Ventus D-Link, you would do like double the speed of the combo. So you could have cool abilities that that actually mess with the moment-to-moment combat. And yeah, no, Matthew's right. Actually, you do get abilities
Yeah, I was gonna point that out.
from what is it? From full course bonuses. The problem is that I don't think that you get to choose what your full course bonus is. I'm pretty sure it's just totally random, and a lot of the time it just ends up being another stat buff. So, and it's so much work for such little payoff. Where if they just centered cooking around those abilities, I think people would like cooking a lot more, and it would be a lot more useful, or at least people would use it a lot more.
Mm-hmm. I think you might need to update that AMA link because that thread's locked now. I just noticed.
Oh wait, is it?
Yeah,
Well,
I locked it up before we went live. Yeah, about cooking, honestly, not a fan. I think it's.
Oh, do you not like it?
No, I think it's probably like potentially the worst addition to the game in my opinion.
Oh wow, dang! I had no idea that of all the things, cooking is definitely the one thing you hate. Dang. All right.
Yeah, I mean, like the combat's fine, links are fine, like all that's fine. But just like I'm not a fan of the game itself, like of the mini game itself, and I'm not a fan of having to basically use quote unquote consumables to buff up. Like I don't know. It just screams at me like it's some kind of MMO when it's not.
I can kind of see that. The way that I see it.
Okay, wait, hold on. Sorry, I'll address this person in your chat that's calling me out here. Okay, combat is fine in that it's fun. It was too easy, but it's fine. Otherwise, like it's fine.
Oh man. The way that I see cooking is that it's a huge excuse for the game not being scaled properly. It's like what is it? It's the sort of thing where people will say, well, you have to utilize all of your tools and stuff to succeed on level 1 proud or level 1 crit or something like that. And it's like it's not even necessarily that you're doing anything in the actual fight itself. You're doing stuff in your menu to like boost your attack strength so that you can do normal damage.
Yeah, like it almost feels like you're cheating. Or
yeah,
not that you're cheating, is that you're making up for a design flaw.
Exactly. It's making up for a design flaw. That's like the best way to phrase it, I think.
Anyway, yeah, that's my 2 cents. Yeah, so actually people are saying like the combat's fine, it's just you're too damn OP, which yeah, in non-crit, yeah. And almost like in crit, it's like the table's flipped, or it's like you're too weak.
Yeah, they nerf a shit ton of stuff that Sora is able to do, and it makes you feel like super limited. And since bosses and enemies are just like 1 or 2 or 3 tapping you to death, it's it's this just really weird feeling where you feel like you can't really be active and do stuff. You have to play really defensively, otherwise you're gonna get 2 tapped for trying to go in and do anything fun.
Yeah. Here I'll pick. Yeah, I'll pick another question, I guess. So. Yeah, okay, so we'll just do this one. Rate the enemy AI out of 10. These out of 10s, man.
Osaka out of 10? Is that a number value? Can I choose that?
I guess.
Oh my god, dude. Dude, I've had so many moments where an enemy will just like look at me, just stare at me in the eye for like 3 full seconds, and then just like start walking around like I don't even exist. Like they just won't do anything. It's so, oh my god, it's so weird. And then it's the moment that you go in is the moment that they just like they punch you in the face for trying to like go in and attack them, because they're going to start up their move with super armor or something, and it's it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating.
Yeah, I hear you on that. All right, go ahead and pick the next question if you want.
All right, cool. I guess I'll just go back to the Reddit thread. Let's see. Arcane Fuji. He's got like a few questions. I think I can answer all of these like relatively quickly.
Sure.
So let's see. His questions are: number one, how does KH2FM offer more unique options in comparison to 3? I'll just go ahead and try and answer that one. So how does it offer more unique options in comparison to... So I think the big thing here is that the majority of your options in 3 are just flat damage dealers. And what I mean by that is they don't actually set up scenarios that like alter the moment to moment fight in any meaningful way. So like, for example, just if you look at all of your spells, like fire, blizzard, thunder, arrow, water, we're ignoring cure because cure is just the healer, but if you just look at all of them, the majority of them just do damage. It's like fire just does damage. Blizzard can freeze certain enemies, but the majority of them just, I mean, because there's so many enemies in the game that you're fighting at once, freezing a single enemy typically isn't going to help. Thunder is the AoE, and it's probably the most useful because of the amount of enemies that are on screen at a time. Water has a slow cast time. It hits twice, and you get like a tiny bit of iframes like a half a second after you cast it, but that's just not all that useful. So water again is just like another projectile, but it has like special properties, like it can hit shadows under the ground. And then arrow pops up enemies, which is like the only spell that actually has utility. Like it pops enemies into the air and it stuns them, which can lead to like a combo. That's the only thing, but it still doesn't affect the gameplay enough to make like a major difference. So like in 2FM, if you look at all of the summons, stuff like Chicken Little, like that has a whistle effect to it, and so that stuns enemies and it pulls them in, and you can combine that with like your AoE fire. You can combine like your summons and your magic together to create this cool strategy where you can actually crowd control and deal damage to all the enemies at once. Like you can do weird stuff, like you can use Master Form, and you can use the infinite magic ability to just kind of chuck Blizzard at enemies while you're in midair, so you can stay off the ground away from like really nasty enemies like the dancers, and then you can chain that into the finisher, which will pull it kind of has like a magnet spiral effect, and it pulls all the enemies in, and that's a really good way of just getting away from the enemies and also kind of getting in damage and crowd control and dealing with them and stuff like that. So I think that's the what is it? the big idea is that there's a lot more utility with your options in 2FM, whereas everything in KH3, the majority of stuff is just straight damage dealers. That's kind of like my big issue.
But let's be real, you just miss Reflect.
I mean, I do. Dude, Reflect is awesome.
Yeah.
Reflect was so... Oh, man, I could talk at length about
could
how...
write a book about Reflect.
No, I could. I could write a book about how Reflect is a good thing for 2FM. Like, even though it's busted and it does so much damage, it's such a good thing to have in 2FM for multiple reasons, other than just like, oh, it's broken and stuff like that.
So
Oh man.
there's actually a really interesting question here from the YouTube chat.
Oh yeah, sure.
3mdh underscore, I don't even know what that's supposed to spell. Says, do you think Zodiac Phantom Aqua from 0.2 is a good example for what bosses should be?
It's definitely Zodiac Aqua is definitely like one of the best bosses in the entire series. It's what is it? It keeps you on your toes, reactionary wise. This is a lot of what is it? With the limited tool set that Aqua has, it really makes you like your defensive abilities, like blocking and dodging. You can't just like roll. What is it? You can't just block everything, because she has the red attack that pierces through the guard. So you have to really like take a look at that and be like, okay, well, whenever she's using the red attacks, I have to kind of like make sure that I'm not getting caught in my guard or something like that. A lot of it is just kind of like pattern recognition, which I think is really good. What else is it? She has like a pretty cool DM that you have to utilize. What is it? You have to work around and memorize. It's and she gets a little bit more aggressive during her final phase, which I also really like. So I don't know. It's a lot of it is reactionary, a lot of it is pattern recognition and memorization, and just kind of doing your best to kind of survive that onslaught is just, I don't know, just that combination of stuff, and the fact that it's a humanoid boss that works really well with your combo system and stuns appropriately and stuff like that, where I'm just like, yeah, that is the pinnacle. That's what you should be making. And
So,
it's
Zodiac Aqua is peak Osaka.
that's like the best. I've never seen anything like nearly as awesome as Zodiac Aqua from Osaka, and it's so funny because it gives you hope for like boss fights in 3, and then they just totally drop the ball, and all of the boss fights are just janky as hell. And instead of like fighting humanoid bosses one-on-one, you have to do like 2v2 fights, and like you have to fight all 3 Norts at once, and it's horrible. And the Dark Inferno fight is literally just 4 moves, and not even a desperation move. So it's like, man, they really dropped the ball on this one. Like, why couldn't they have just dropped Zodiac Aqua into KH3? It would have been, people would have loved that.
Yeah. So talking about bosses then, what do you think about Dark Inferno?
I mean, okay, so it's not like it's not a poorly designed fight. It's just the moment that you beat it, it's just like it's like over. It's like you've just kind of figured it out. Like it's challenging at first because you don't have all the information, and then once you do, it just like it fights itself. There's only 4 enemies. There's barely any mix-ups. It's after a while it just gets really boring. Yeah. I wish that there was a little bit more diversity with especially for like a secret boss fight. There needs to be way more diversity with this moveset.
So I'm gonna ask another one. A lot of people are actually kind of asking this. So there's like, yeah, just a bunch of people. There's like this Rent WOQ person and some others in chats. Overall, not gameplay here, we're talking story. What do you think of KH3, especially as a conclusion to the saga?
I didn't think it was a very good conclusion to the saga.
Okay, so you feel me. That's good.
Yeah, no, if you're, so I mean, like if you're in for No More's wild ride, then you're probably gonna like a lot of what KH3 has to offer, because it's a lot of that. So that's great. But as far as like a conclusion to the saga, it actually feels more like Dream Drop Distance.
Yeah, like it's not a conclusion, right?
Yeah, no, it's a lead-in to the next saga. It's just a lead-in to another game.
And let's just talk about those final 10 seconds, because what? Why? Like that completely yeah, like that completely kills the fact that it's a conclusion, right?
Yeah, so okay, the more I think about that ending, it's and not to say that like we're not allowed to have like a happy ending or something like that, but because I mean in movies and video games I've definitely seen endings that are like not happy, but they were also satisfying at the same time. And I think just the fact that they kind of just took Sora away from us at the very end is it just kind of felt like a cheap shot. It just felt like a gut punch.
What if? So technically, no one died, right? Except Mr. Bad Guy and maybe his buddies, ish.
Right, yeah, they passed on, right?
Yeah. So what if then? What if someone else, like from the lights, I guess, actually did die, but before the end of the game, and didn't come back? Like, what would you have thought about that? Like, let's. Everyone's been talking about this, but hypothetically speaking, Riku dies. What happens?
Okay.
Like, what would you feel at that point?
Then there's definitely got to be some journey in the next saga to revive Riku or something like that. Like, that exact thing is like, okay, so what if Kairi died, which I mean, spoilers, she does.
But doesn't.
She,
not
okay,
a
so
good
she-
trade.
she gets-
Not a good trade.
She gets slashed, all right, at the end,
She
and
literally
she
gets
turns to
one-shotted.
ice.
Kyrie was
She gets
critical
one-shot.
all this time.
Damn, she's taking the hard way out. But yeah, no, she gets slashed and she dies, and at the end of KH3, instead of Kairi being there with everybody, it's Sora on the tree looking off into the distance, and like Riku comes up to him and he's like, "You've made up your mind?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's that kind of leads into the, okay, so the next saga is going to be about saving Kairi and bringing her back or something.
And then it's like, no.
No, exactly. But but think about that. That ending, I feel, is way more satisfying than Sora just being cheap shot taken away from us at the very end.
And we don't even know why or how. Which, okay, you can argue
And
is
yeah,
like,
that's the problem too. Is that we're not even given any information why it happened, how it happened. It was right at the end, and we don't even get to ask questions. We don't get any explanation whatsoever.
and it's like, there's a lot that we can like talk about from this point. But like, for example, like how useless she still was, and she had potential, and then no. Also, I'll highlight that Lee or Axel was also pretty useless. Like technically, like at one point his Keyblade basically just got screwed. And it was just like, oh okay, but then he can pull it back out somehow.
Right.
But since we just talked about basically Thanos snaps Sora, what do you think of the secret ending? The not so secret ending?
Are we talking about Lushu?
Let's talk about that one
we're
first,
talking
and
about-
then the Shibuya stuff.
Okay, yeah. So the whole Lushu thing, I feel so stupid because a friend of mine was just like, the moment that Zigbar just fell off the side, he was like, well, that's Master of Masters or Lushu, it's somebody, because he didn't, the little dark portal thing didn't pop up and take him away.
Yeah, right. Like you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I thought it was a cool plot twist. Honestly, I was actually kind of impressed with it, and I don't know. There really wasn't much to say there. It was cool reading the reports and kind of getting some backstory on Lushu and his journey through the ages, basically, to have the events of the Book of Prophecy come back or actually happen.
Sorry.
And then
before the rest here, you brought up.
Oh, yeah,
We're
sure.
talking about this, right? So, do you play or follow KHUX's story at all?
no, absolutely not.
But do
I
you
do not do
follow
that.
the story, like watch videos or anything, or are you just nothing?
I know like a couple of things. Like what is it? I know that Marluxia and Larxine's somebodies were around in the age of Unchained Key, as well as Ventus, and I kind of know about the Dandelion leaders and all that sort of stuff. I know a little bit about the weird Maleficent jank. That like even now, like when I think about it, I'm just like, how in the world did she like go back and then come back and she has this info about the book of, I don't like this really weird stuff. But outside of that, no, I do not follow the Unchained Key stuff extensively.
Okay. No, I was just wondering because yeah, that sort of ties in. But anyway, because at this point we can basically say, like, I do agree with a lot of the people's comments here. It's a really good story. I think possibly one of the better stories in the series, but stuck in a disgusting game.
Right, yeah.
It's like unappealing to a lot of people. Anyway, okay, before lingering too long, because I do want to go back to taking people's questions, but yeah, so the Shibuya scene, what'd you make of that?
Man, your boy Nomura is really upset that he didn't get to make Final Fantasy 13 Versus, dude.
Yeah.
He is so salty, dude. He pops you a Verum Rex in the game, and he's like, yeah, it's a joke. Like, that's a joke. That's not gonna be anything. And then he pops you this secret ending, and he's like, no. I want.
I really want to make this game.
He basically put his foot down, and he was like, all right, Square, I made KH3 for you. You have to let me make 13 Versus in the form of like Kingdom Hearts Yozora or something like that. Or
do you think they're gonna stop integrating Disney into it, or reduce the amount of Disney into it moving forward?
I could see them doing that. I mean, there wasn't.
Can it survive
no Disney
without Disney? Because of all the marketing too.
Right. Yeah. No. I think you're gonna lose a lot of people if you don't have Disney involved in Kingdom Hearts at all. So like. That's the sort of thing where I think like Kingdom Hearts 3 being a numbered title and showing off all the Disney stuff brought a lot of the casual fan base back, and they were like really in it for the they wanted to see how it all ended and everything. And now that they potentially are going to go to like side games or whatever it is before Kingdom Hearts 4, whatever that's going to be, I think a lot of people are going to be, they're just kind of not sure what to to do, especially if Disney's.
But so a lot of people are talking about this here, but like what if the worlds we visit are, I don't know, Square Enix properties or original worlds or whatever, like Worlds Ends With You or stuff like that, but then the only Disney is like Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and Minnie and Chip and Dale, and just like the normal crew.
Right.
Like, do you think it could? So, and also the possibility that could be the in-between game before KH4. Like, I don't know. I think like it might happen.
I could see it happening. I think that I think you no matter what, you're gonna lose a lot of the casual fans if you go that route. A lot of the people that have stuck with it for a long time. In fact, I think a lot of people that have stuck with the series the whole time probably prefer having a Disney list Kingdom Hearts game, because they're kind of in it for Nomura's wild ride way more than Disney's involvement.
Way more than Let It Go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like filler, basically, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Let It Go, I could go on and on about how that Frozen world was terrible. Just a complete waste of a world.
Yeah, that, I mean, we could get into like Disney involvement there, but like that's like a whole other discussion.
Yeah. All right. You know what? Go ahead and pick a question.
All right, I'm just gonna scroll around a little bit, and I'm just gonna choose one that's not at the very top. So, all right, this guy. Let's see, Ezak1. Let's see. He asks, which vanilla version of the main KH games do you think is the most solid, without taking into account final mix versions? 1, 2, or 3? I think KH1 actually is probably the most complete game without a final mix. Not gonna lie, you would probably think that I would choose KH2, but I mean, yeah, Vanilla KH2 is pretty lacking. Like, it's got Sephiroth and it's got like the Jiminy Journal to complete, but outside of that, there's really not much to do. Whereas Vanilla KH1's got the side quest Olympus Coliseum cups that you can do. It's got Sephiroth, it's got the Ice Titan, it's got Phantom, it's got Kurt Zisa. It's got some cool post game bosses. It's got a lot of stuff, and yeah, like there's a good chunk of stuff to do post game that isn't really trivial or really boring. Yeah, KH2. Okay, so KH2 also had the Olympus Cup, but not gonna lie, I don't think a lot of people liked it in KH2. I think the Olympus Cup in KH2 was really lacking, or at least it was just, I don't know, it wasn't very fun. But I think there was a lot of enjoyment to be had in KH1, and it felt a lot more complete as a game than Vanilla 2 or 3.
Alright, sorry, I'm dealing with some weird shit going on here. Okay.
No, don't worry about it, dude.
Whoops. Alright. Shit, let me check this now. Okay. Sorry. Alright, yeah, I'm gonna hard agree with basically everything.
Hard agree on that?
Hard agree. That's why I was silent. I was like nodding to myself. You know, a part of me kind of thinks that I think it would have been interesting, and you know, there's still DLC that's possible, but the lack of some kind of Colosseum is really strange.
Yeah, isn't it? It's, you would think that it would be perfect for KH3, like the type of game that it is, fighting mob after mob of enemy, but yeah, they just were really dry on that on content outside of the main story.
So someone actually asked about this. Oh god, here we go. Hikari5880. What sorts of DLCs or updates for KH3 would you like to see that you would feel would improve gameplay, replayability, and enjoyment of the game? Like, I think that's
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, like Olympus Coliseum
and it
stuff.
probably is paid DLC. I think they confirmed that Critical is free and then the DLC is paid, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. But yeah, I guess, yeah, like Olympus Coliseum stuff probably would be really cool. For replayability, I think secret bosses, like a lot of 1v1 humanoid bosses would, I think, be really good, because when you look at the bosses in the Keyblade Graveyard in 3, they are so faithfully recreated. Like, if you look at their moveset, a lot of those moves are pulled directly from their original games. And like, if you look at Dark Riku or something, like his Dark Aura attack, or what is it? Not the Dark Aura attack, but like his DM, where he kind of like pops down a bunch. I don't know. I felt like that was really faithfully recreated. A lot of just like his basic moves and attacks were also straight from KH1. If you look at Marluxia, like his where he takes the scythe and then he charges it and then charges at you and spins with it, that was also extremely faithfully recreated. So it's not like they can't do it. It's just that for some reason in the campaign they made them 2v2 fights or 3v3 fights where they put them all together. So if they just took those fights and made them like data versions of themselves, where they actually have desperation moves and phases and more moves than they have right now, and they made them 1v1 fights, I think that, oh god, like just a few of those, not even like all 13 of them, but just like a few of them would be like really fun. And I think that would actually really help with replayability.
But, okay, so if we're talking DLC here, so I would love some kind of Cavern of Remembrance-esque situation as well, but the DLC is either going to add something like mid-game, quote-unquote, or like
sure,
end of the game, right? But whatever it is, it would probably have to be before Sora poofs, unless it's after somehow. Because I'm used to secret bosses leading into like the next game, right?
Sure, right. So like, so some sort of like foreteller boss, secret boss or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like so, Ava wasn't there, and there's all of
Hmm.
these reports and stuff talking about I don't know either Skuld or her potentially. I'm not really sure where the consensus lies right there, but it's not like anyone really knows. Like one of these two could be interesting, and I'm hoping that we do get something, because
Oh yeah,
that would
sure.
be hopefully a well designed fight, something like Zodiac Aqua or something. That'd be super awesome. Oh, Skuld is in
Yeah.
the reports. Okay, if that's what the community thinks, just you wait till Nomura puts in the switcheroo here and says, actually, it was like Strelitzia.
Yeah.
Um,
A Chirithy boss fight? Oh no, I don't want to fight Chirithy.
I was half expecting what are they called, Darklings, um, something that like what Aqua was turning into ish, like
Oh right,
more of
yeah.
those. Like even as a standard enemy, it would have been interesting. But anyway, yeah. So okay, I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Kaiiku, the co-owner of the Kingdom Hearts subreddit and KHUX subreddits for your chat that's asking. Um, well, the issue is that a lot of the story now is moving towards KHUX almost strictly. Like we don't really, and it's the only one that's actually kind of continuing. So a lot of it is tying in. So anyway, uh, let me quickly ask here: if you had to pick a secret boss, like or an extra boss, like a super boss or something that's not like Dark Inferno, which is like basically an invisible on steroids. Like,
Right.
who would you have liked to see? Would you, or rather, also, would you have liked to see Sephiroth again?
Oh dude, Sephiroth is like that. That would have been super cool. Just I mean, especially because Square. What is it? Yeah, Final Fantasy involvement. S- Like the Sephiroth boss fight is so iconic
Mm-hmm.
because from one and two, just because it's like the one time that you can fight him like in live combat in like any video game that I can think of as a boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can fight him in Final Fantasy VII, but it's like it's turn based. So
Eventually, the remake one day, which some would argue is going to take away time from more Cage games.
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. But the conclusion to like Sephiroth and Cloud's like clash going on, like happening in Radiant Garden or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just like they pop up out of nowhere and suddenly stuff's going down and you got to fight Sephiroth again. I don't know. Just any
I
reason for it to happen
I'd
would
be
be amazing.
I'd be really down with the DLC kind of introducing Radiant Garden kind of mid game, but you play as
Yeah, that
Riku or something, and then he encounters Sephiroth, and you play as Riku against him, or something like that. Like it'd be interesting because in some ways it's not actually interrupting the Sora story at the same time. Like it could be in parallel almost. I don't know.
no, I could
It'd be
see that.
strange because I'd want to use Sora, but. Uh, all right, last question I'll ask until at least a couple from you. So Byroxis is asking, do you like any of the form changes? Which one, if so?
Um, Counter Shield is the best form
But do you
in the
like
world.
it? Because like could be like it's cool, it's fun, it's flashy, or it could just be oh, it's practical, it's powerful, whatever it is. Like,
I mean, all of the above for Counter Shield, actually. Well, I mean, I'm not sure about the coolness factor. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but Counter Shield is definitely one. Let's see, what else is really cool? In my first playthrough, I gravitated a lot to Shooting Star and the dual arrow guns. I really like that a lot.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think just like a good physical Keyblade. I think like the what is it? Happy Gear. which would turns into the agile claws, and then the yo-yo, the twin yo-yos. The yo-yos are incredible.
Yeah,
Like,
really good CC.
it's it's really really wide attacks with multiple hits, and it has a ability that just automatically lets you like home in on something that's far away, so you
Yeah.
can throw the yo-yo and then it'll pulsar right close to the enemy, and then you can do your normal combo. That was dope for sure. As far as counter shield, like it's such a cool mechanic to be able to, instead of just like hitting stuff, which is kind of like what all the other form changes are about, you get to actually charge up 2 charges and then use that as an attack, and it just does so much damage.
Yeah.
And it has 360-degree protection when you're using the shield. It's just that alone, it works so well with keyblade switching and all the other mechanics. So you get counter shield and you pop it, and then you put it in your pocket and you pull out another keyblade so that you don't run out of gauge. And then when you want to guard, all you got to do is input the keyblade switch and then guard right at the last second, and and then you'll get a charge off. So whenever it's like you're putting a shield in your pocket, and whenever you want to guard, instead of just doing the normal guard, you pull out the shield and then use that to guard instead, and it's way more effective. And yeah, that combined with like critical counter, if you time your guards correctly, you can even get double damage on the on your reprisal from counter shield. So it's like everything.
Have you tried level 1 crit?
I have not. No, I don't want to either.
No, right? What if you?
I really don't want to.
I don't remember. I think Bizkit 047 did it. I think. Yeah. I know it's terrible, but let's be honest. You're gonna try it at some point, right?
Oh man, I'm
you're
gonna
gonna
take
do
a rain
it.
check on that. I'm waiting on them
Bring
to,
over
like,
the Ultima and give it a try.
Maybe. Oh my god, it
But
doesn't
no,
look
yeah,
fun.
it's-
It doesn't look fun
it's-
at all.
It's torture. It's literally torture. I tried it. I quit after like an hour. I was just like, nope.
Yeah, the damage output is just so awful. You just get one tapped, and it's just, you have to camp like to the nth degree. You have to camp so hard.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. No, I said I was done. You choose.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just gonna pick another one all the way down here at the bottom, actually. Actually, hold on. I'll pick something like here. Oh, shoot. Actually, there was like one question that I was really into. Oh, okay, sure. I'll go with like a slightly more controversial question. So this one, I won't dwell on it too much, but this one's from Avid Anime Fan 123, and I'll throw this in the thingy. And basically, he asks, do you ever feel like you're unfairly criticized, especially on the sub? For example, the last time one of your videos was posted here, half the comments weren't even about your points in the video, but rather just disparaging you based off a single, like you said on stream, a single moment that you said on stream like 2 years ago. And I always thought that was pretty unfair to you. I mean, I guess I can't blame people, because I think everybody's really passionate about the Kingdom Hearts series, right? So when I mention something that people don't want to hear or don't like, I can totally understand how they would be, really aggressive in how they would respond to people and just be like, oh, well, I don't like what he had to say here. I don't like what he had to say here. He said this thing 2 years ago, so, I don't think he has anything worth, listening to. It's, I mean, I get where people are coming from. It's not a huge surprise. Um, but I mean, it's, you just kind of gotta roll with the punches, I guess.
So I will mention though, um, basically everyone gets called out on that sub at some point, and that's everyone gets shit on. It's like it just happens.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
feel
like I
that.
was saying earlier, the vocal minority is very loud. So I think
Oh yeah,
recently
exactly.
our moderator team, like myself and others, basically just got like bamboozled or something. Like, oh, they're terrible, and it's like, okay. Um,
Oh, just people calling
so
out the moderators.
yeah, like, but this happens in like every community, so like it's whatever. And I'm not trying to
Yeah.
say that we're perfect. We're far from it, and I'm not trying to turn this into a sub talk, but yeah, Reddit is a circle. Oh my god, sorry. Reddit is a
Sorry.
circle jerk in general, which yeah is kind of true, but at the same time, it's like our sub has. Actually, let me check. We have 154,000 subscribers. If a thread gets like 20 comments, that's 20 out of 154,000. So like,
Right.
eh?
It's a very, very vocal minority that
Exactly.
shows up a lot and has certain beliefs, and you know, they
So
might like some people and they might not like some other
yeah.
people.
So personally, though, like from my perspective and from some of the comments I've also seen, any speedrunner, any YouTuber, just gamers joint, Skyward Wing, HMK, Soram, whatever it is, you,
Hmm.
other biscuit, uh, anyone honestly that has an opinion, like someone's gonna criticize it, right? So
Oh
you
yeah.
cannot please everyone, and anyway, the reason that we're doing this right now is because there is interest, and there's always been interest. So just leave it at that
Hmm.
from my point of view. Um,
Dude, you'll get, it's so crazy. You'll get people like Sora Lam, and he'll make a reaction video to a trailer, and he's just like really chill about it. He's like, "Oh, dude, that was kind of cool." And then you'll go in the comment section and people will be like, "This is the worst reaction video I've ever seen in my entire life. You didn't even like react, or you didn't jump out of your chair. Like Gamer's Joint was like so much better. You need to react more." And I'm like, "Man, what the heck? Like
react more.
how can you hate on somebody like that just because they aren't like, you know, like, oh my god, this was amazing, like people will hate on
Give me
everybody
your
for like,
secondhand endorphin. Oh man.
exactly, it happens everywhere. I think it's crazy.
Anyway, every YouTuber or content creator has their own little I don't know what to call it, uh, niche, I guess. Their own
Yeah, for sure.
behaviors that people like, and that's fine. Uh, I personally enjoy watching reaction videos, but reactions that are tame, not like, oh, let me fly to the moon and come back or something. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
and it's like that's like a genuine reaction. Like, anyway, um, okay, I'll let you choose another one if you want.
All right, all right. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. All right, so Megavoir on the Reddit thread asks, being a speedrunner of a pretty deep game, gameplay wise, how do you think this has affected your perception of playing other games casually? Do you always go into new games with a sort of standard, or can you tune that part of your brain out?
No, sorry.
Also,
Before we, I'm gonna interrupt you
oh
because
yeah,
I realize just a disclaimer here. I have no negative things to say about any channel, and this is neutral, right? Like we're not bashing on others or anything here.
oh no no no
Small
no no,
disclaimer: parenthesis closed.
no, Gamers Join is cool, Dean is cool, everybody's cool. It's like I'm not here to make fun of people for doing reaction videos or anything like that. It's just people's reactions to the reaction video. Can you believe it? Um, but yeah, so the question, do I always go into games with a sort of standard, or can I tune that part of my brain out? Um, a lot of the time, So being a speedrunner doesn't really affect how you play games casually a lot of the time. Uh, I get this question a lot, and I think a lot of people think that speedrunners go into games with like a completely different mindset, and they're like trying to find the craziest things that they can exploit. And a lot of times that's not true at all. Like people are just trying to play games just to kind of have fun. Um, you definitely kind of get like a different sort of skill set and mental attitude towards some games. Like you like I don't know, playing 2FM crit a lot or playing 2FM level 1 crit a lot, you can kind of you carry the same sort of tendencies and lessons that you learn from that game, and you can carry it into like another action RPG or like something in like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Like you can kind of bring the same attitude over to that game, and there's still like a learning period. It's not like you're going to be like amazing right off the bat, but you kind of have the right mentality or something. But we're speedrunners are people too. We can still play games, and we're still super chill about it, and we're not out here trying to speedrun every single game under the sun. We're just trying to have a good time.
I'm gonna say that you might be human then. Maybe.
Yeah, no, it's
maybe.
It's actually what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I used to speedrun back in the day, and it's like my old high school buddies are all like, "Do you even enjoy the game?" I was just like,
I sure hope I'm enjoying the game if I keep on playing it all the time.
All right. So Arif Akmal asks on YouTube here. As someone who was soured by the story and gameplay mechanics of KH3, do you think it would be worth it to start a crit mode playthrough or just wait until the next DLC drops?
If you're gonna do a critical mode playthrough, make sure you fight every mob that you come across, and don't skip any fights, and make sure you're leveled up to like level 40 or something. I don't know, my experience with it, like just today, I was pretty soured by it, because crit just like makes a lot of the issues that we were complaining about before into like game breaking issues, like to the point where you're just not even gonna beat a fight because it's so ridiculous. But yeah, if you're soured by it, I mean, crit is a lot of the same. It's just harder, and a lot of it is artificial difficulty. So, kind of use that information to make your judgment on whether or not you should play it or not.
Just realized that our announcement thread actually has questions on it, or not the announcement, the live stream linked announcement here.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, here, let me
do I need to
send it over. I'll just paste it in your chat.
Oh, okay, cool.
I don't know if you wanted to take a look at those too.
Oh, yeah, there's a few questions. All right.
Oh, that's an interesting question too.
Let's see. I'll go with Arminus's question, I guess. Let's see. He's got a few. I'll try and answer it all in one. What do you think of critical mode so far? What are the improvements made, and what are glaring issues that still need to be fixed? I personally think the camera is still bad. It still is, yeah, that's true. What do you think about doing extended combos on enemies with Rising Spiral and Groundbreaker? I think it's great, but I feel like enemies get out of the stagger. So crit is I mentioned this at the very beginning. It's like the definitive way to play the game because of all the new abilities. So that's really good. Glaring issues are that all of the other issues that we had on Proud mode are just highlighted so much more, and it's stuff that just kind of you got nicked before, will now two-shot you, and that's pretty painful. Let's see. What do you think about doing extended combos on enemies? I think that Rising Spiral is really good. I don't know. It's really funny because I mentioned I made a video and I was like, if you're in the air all the time, then you're going to be pretty unsafe. But KH3 is the sort of game where you do actually want to be in the air all the time because you just want to be as far away from enemies as possible. So using Rising Spiral to pick up enemies and get them away from everybody else so that they can't hit you out of your combo is actually a legitimate strategy in the early game. I use that a lot. It's frustrating to admit that, but yeah, it's very true. Oh yeah, reprisals should definitely always stagger enemies, especially if there's an attack that's very specifically designed for you to counter guard it. Cough cough, the snow dragons in Arendelle. What the heck?
God.
I'm so upset. I'm so upset that like they have an attack specifically designed for you to guard it, and then when you counter guard, you just get punished for it. Like why? Why is that a thing? XD. Yeah, enemy design's a thing, dude. Enemy design is very much a thing. Joax actually has like a neat question. How do I feel about people saying you were asking for higher difficulty and that you should now deal with crit since I asked for it? I mean, that's actually... That's the thing. It's that we all, I'm gonna swear real quick, we all look like assholes now, because we were just like sitting around and we were just like, wow, this game is so easy, dude. Like there needs to be a critical mode. Proud mode is way too easy.
And then it comes out and we get it. Your ass.
And then we get it, and we're just like, this is so stupid. And so it's just like, oh well, you know, you got what you asked for, but you're still complaining about stuff. It's like, it's not fair, dude. It's so stupid. But yeah, it is hard, but there is a very big difference between artificial difficulty and genuine difficulty, and critical mode is chock full of artificial difficulty, and that's a huge problem. It makes it not fun to play. So people, I mean, I think that a lot of people are using the fact that critical mode exists to deflect criticism towards the game, and it's just, you know, that's just how it is. That's what people do. I'm not saying that they're right, but that's what people are doing. It's very unfortunate. So
I'm playing some BGM here, and I think this is reminding me of freaking mini games. So unrelated, but I guess related. Did you like any of the mini games? Because there was a lot in this game.
I thought that people are gonna laugh at me, but I thought that in Corona the dancing mini was cute. I liked it actually.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I thought it was really cute.
I actually enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. The mech mini game, the Yozora mini game in Toy Box, I also like that too. Actually, I thought it was pretty. I thought that there were gonna be like extra levels in the game too, when you go back to like replay it later, but it's literally the same exact fight as the story fight. It's just you try and get a better time or a better score. So the Verum Rex, not the Yozora minigame, the Verum Rex minigame, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought
it's
that
the
was
Yozora
really
minigame, let's be honest.
Sure.
So
yeah, but there are a lot of other mini games.
Yeah.
Woof, man, why are those there?
Mm-hmm.
And they make things really.
Can we
like,
just can we just talk about 100 Acre Joke?
Oh man, let's just take the same mini game and just replay it times to your world. There you go. Bye now.
Like, why was this even?
You want to talk about how Eeyore is gone now? Like, they just got rid of him, dude. Fun.
Yeah, and Phil doesn't talk.
Well, that there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. But there's no good reason for
Yeah.
Eeyore being gone, dude. What the heck?
I actually agree with the Simi 1022 there. Like, why is it? Who thought that this world, big quotes there, world, is a good
Mhm.
idea?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I know a lot of people are very upset about that.
so okay, so we talked about mini games. What about? I was gonna say rank from 1 to 10, but just what's your favorite world? Disney World. We'll talk Disney World first.
Corona. Corona is my favorite Disney World.
A man of culture.
Dude,
Worst.
it's people. Okay, people be going. They're crazy out here on Twitter, like trying to say that Corona is like one of the worst worlds in the entire series, and I'm like, dude. Okay, I don't know. So Corona is the one world where it felt like they really got professional voice actors and actresses to kind of do the Disney bits, and that helped a lot with Donald and Goofy and Sora, and it kind of made them feel a little bit more human, and it made the dialogue feel a lot more natural, as opposed to a lot of the other worlds where it doesn't feel natural at all. And I mean, it definitely was just kind of like a Disney movie rehash for sure, but it felt like the bits that you were involved, like where everybody was kind of involved in the story, it didn't really feel like you were missing much, and I felt like the involvement of Marluxia and kind of how he corrupts the what is it, the fake mother or whatever.
Grothel.
Yeah, Grothel. Yeah, yeah. I thought that was like actually like a good usage of how like the organization would kind of come in
Mm-hmm.
and mess around with Disney worlds, and it was beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Oh, Gothel.
It was oh, Gothel. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The world was just so vibrant. The colors were amazing. Like it like graphics are like really good in this game, but like it felt like Corona was the one where it really shined, and it was so gorgeous. The
Mm-hmm.
music was great. Um,
The flower
it felt like
fields.
you were, yeah, the flower fields. It felt like you were there for just like the perfect amount of time. Like it didn't feel like the world dragged on for too long. It felt like you were there for just the right amount of time, and it, as opposed to like Arendelle, where it feels like you're there for an eternity. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Corona's great, dude. Corona's so good. It's such a great world. I love it.
So, my only complaint, actually, the one thing I didn't like about Corona is that Rapunzel and Flynn didn't sing. That's all. That's it.
Oh, you wanted them to sing?
Yeah, they had the scene and everything. Why does Let It Go get to happen but not this?
Yeah, because Let It Go made more money. It's famous,
Yeah.
and Disney was like, you better have Let It Go in in Frozen World, or we're not gonna let you have it. You better do it.
So, what about the worst Disney World?
Oh man, it's like it's a toss up between Arendelle and the Caribbean. I think.
Caribbean,
I think it's
really?
yeah. So, oh, man.
Arendelle, 100%, but.
Right. Okay. So like, let me explain the Caribbean. I mean, if you really liked Pirates 3, if you really like that movie, then that's cool. But if you didn't like that movie, and you didn't understand what was going on, well, that's because they didn't do a very good job of explaining the movie at all in the game. You literally have to watch the movie to understand what was going on in the cutscenes. It was in terms of like the actual gameplay, like for a good chunk of it, you're underwater. Underwater combat is horrible. For another good chunk of it, you're fighting literally the worst boss in the game, Raging Vulture.
Oh, God, yeah.
For another good chunk of it, you're doing pirate combat, which is, again, it's super frustrating because you'd rather just be actually fighting stuff, but instead you got to sail around the whole sea and fight other ships with your cannons. And then you get to the actual boss fight with Davy Jones, and it's such a gigantic mess, and the tentacles just get in the way of everything, and you can't even have a straight up fight with them, and it's just so awful. The and then you have to collect crabs too. Like who could forget crab collecting? That was the music loop in that town where you're collecting crabs is so awful. Like it's so abrupt. I don't, if you listen to that theme, it's really bad.
Yeah. It really stood out to me. Nothing else actually stood out musically except that, and it's just like, wait, what?
You know, it's like it's really intense, and then it just switches to like really really chill, but there's no good transition. Someone mixed it really badly, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's crazy. Yeah, no, he's a pirate, exactly. And the only thing that redeems that world is once you get control of the ship and you can actually sail around and check out the islands, the optional islands. There's actually a lot of stuff to find. There's even this one secret trove of like 15 chests underwater that you can pick up, and it's got all these different materials for upgrading your keyblade and stuff. And when you get there, it feels like, oh my god, like I actually like went out of my way to look for stuff, and I got rewarded for it. Like I found this crazy, you found the mother lode of chests. It's amazing. So that's like the only thing that redeems that world is the free sailing afterwards. But everything else about that world is just so garbage. Did I do the secret ship boss? I did, and it was dumb. Because no, I don't like doing the ship stuff. But yeah, I did do the golden ship.
So yeah, I think the weird music stuff actually also happens in Scala. Maybe I'd have to listen back, but I do believe at one point it sounded a little weird.
Well, the thing with Scala is that they okay, so I'm at this point I am 100% convinced that Scala was cut before the final game.
Oh, 100%.
If they like, I'm actually going to be I'm not sure if anybody asked about like what I would want for DLC, but if they don't add Scala back into the game via DLC, I'm going to be really upset. Because that theme that they made for Scala is amazing. It's one of the best themes in the entire series, and it only gets to play for 5 seconds before you activate the 13 goat Nord fight or whatever, and it gets interrupted.
It almost, yeah, like the fact that you get there and you just like take 5 steps forward and ta-da,
and then that theme is gone forever, and you have to fight the dudes.
Like it feels, and I think someone actually mentioned it in one of the chats at one point that there's something about like if you go out of bounds, it tells you to go to the other towers or something. Like
oh really?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if that's true, but if that's true, then yeah, like DLC in the future, we're probably gonna get there, and then we'll have to like traverse the world, and then probably come back to, I don't know, the center island or something, and then then fight. Like I don't know. Oh, it was fake?
I'm okay with that. That would be cool.
Okay, so that's not real, but it could easily, like, the exploration. Also, I think at one point, wasn't there this, like, investors meeting or something, and they talked about, like, Sora being in this room with, like, chessboards somewhere, and, somewhere that looked like where young Master Xehanort and Ericus were?
Yeah,
like, that's obviously in Scala, right? So, like, I don't know. I feel like it definitely was cut.
Oh, I do too. No, it's like that theme that Yoko composed is all the evidence that I need that they expected you to explore that area and do stuff for sure. Like I'm 100% convinced. Like you don't just make that theme. You don't put that much time and effort into a theme for a world that you're only to listen to for 5 seconds. There's no way. Like she had to have had the impression that it was going to be a end game world that you were going to fully explore, and they just didn't have enough time at the end of the game to make it, so they just cut it, and they were just like, okay, we'll just fight the final boss now.
Yeah. I appreciate, but also don't appreciate the fact that all the darkness has shared a health pool. Like in that fight.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, if they didn't have a shared health pool, that would be a fight. Like that would be such a night. I mean, if you cut it so that all 13 enemies had like only 1.5 bars of health or something, then maybe it wouldn't be nearly as bad. But just the fact that they have a shared health pool definitely saves that fight a lot. Otherwise, it would have been an actual nightmare.
Yeah, it feels like a huge missed opportunity. And I also recall that there was some interview or something or other that was saying that stuff will be cut to make the release deadline or whatever. And this was probably one of those things, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's it seemed like the dev team was very, very punched for completing the Disney worlds, and I mean, I also get this feeling that they could have potentially made each of the 13 Darknesses 1v1 fights, but they just didn't have enough time, so they just kind of stuck them together as like 2v2 or 3v3 fights.
Oh yeah, and the mysterious tower that's missing. That's true. We even saw gameplay of that.
The missing mysterious tower that had gameplay. There's just none there. It's not a explorable area. There's a lot of weird stuff about this game that I wish we knew more about.
I think either the DLC is going to be huge or a letdown or just right. But there's definitely, it's not just going to be like, oh, it's nice. Like, it's an extra, like, little cherry on top kind of thing. It's either going to complete the game or it's just going to be, like, just completely useless. Like, irrelevant. I don't know. I don't think they can. I hope that they pull it out and, like, it's something insane.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, finish or canceling. Yep, you're right.
That was definitely in the trailers.
Yep.
Let's see. There's this question from Chris Senpai, actually, that I'll go ahead and answer. BB, do you think if Square introduced revamped org fights from 2FM or some similar 1v1 fights into the KH3 system that the combat could hold up? I definitely it would definitely add replayability to the game. I don't think it would be nearly as interactive and interesting as KH2's system, but if they were just good, solid, well-made fights, then yeah, that would add some replayability, because I think that's just what people are starving for, is just like good straight up fights, and there's just not a lot of those in 3.
Yeah, you're like starved for them.
Like the only 2 like good 1v1 fights I can think of are like the Evil Aqua fight, which is, I mean, even that's kind of hit or miss, and the Vanitas fight. I didn't like the final Xehanort boss fight. I thought that was kind of, just as from a like boss design perspective, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I hated it because where's Spaceship Xehanort? Like, hello?
Spaceships.
Like, every game has had spaceship whatever. Like, where's my Spaceship Xehanort?
Where's spaceship? Yeah, they were supposed to go all out, and he was supposed to have like 5 phases.
Yeah, I need my
why does he only get
Weebanort. Anyway, yeah. I did find the part where he like strips you of your light kind of interesting. Like, I did not expect that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish that it didn't last nearly as long as it did, because you have to combo for so long before you can finally get out of rage form. Yeah. And just like having to sit there and block like 13 attacks in a row before you can finally attack him back is like, it just kills the pacing. It's just like you're sitting there and going through a block simulator before you can finally get to play the video game again.
And yeah, I kind of do agree with your chat there. I think Xemnas was a much more interesting final fight than Xehanort was, which is a little bit strange to say, but
yeah. Let's see. Oh, there's one. There's one question by Frostcrit, and he asks, based on how KH3 went, do you think the current dev team listens to criticism like they say they do? And if so, to what extent? Man, so the only evidence that I can really give for this is that they asked like a bunch of people, like Sorlam1, HMK, Gamers Joint, Bizkitz047, like a lot of people to do that event, right, where they would come and play the game early and get some footage to, you know, get some free promotion. And there was a lot of hype around that because those same people were actually able to talk to the lead game developer, like talk to Tai Yasui and a lot of other people about what they feel should be changed about the current system before it's fully released. And probably they mentioned stuff like about air slide and just about combos in general and how they should feel and all that sort of stuff. And the camera zooming in on certain attacks and animations and stuff like that. So, and when I loaded up KH3 for the first time and I looked at the options, like the customized options, you could like disable some of that stuff so that it isn't nearly as intrusive. And I was like, okay, cool. So they did actually like listen to that sort of criticism because that's what people were super concerned about for a long time. But beyond that, I really don't know how much they listen to criticism. Like, I was talking to a friend, actually. I was talking to a friend, and we were kind of like talking about just KH3 in general and a lot of its flaws and how it's so obvious to us, like how in the world can the devs not see this and immediately change it. And the way that he phrased it is that devs just see a very different game than the players do. Like they see a very, very different kind of game from their perspective than we do. They don't really see the flaws, and they see a lot of like potential and a lot of the playfulness and, you know, how they want to, you know, they want the game to be played. And it's just the sort of thing where even if we do point out flaws, and even if they are watching, they just might not really consider them flaws in the first place. They might just be like, well, that's just kind of how we wanted the game to be played. That was just our vision in the first place. So
there's so there's definitely probably some of that, but there's also the fact that some easy changes might not be so easy as well.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
We can't, and considering how we just talked about, oh, they had to cut this and this, like, could they really afford to take the time to almost revamp the game in some ways?
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like a lot of core issues with the game, I'm just like, well, I mean, there's no way they're gonna spend that much time like trying to revamp this. So this is just a lost cause. All we can really ask for are just little band-aids here and there to try and get us through.
I do wonder though, like, do you think they're gonna take in this feedback and kind of work with it for the next games? Like, in some ways, this KH3 was kind of they set the bar of like, okay, well, this is our graphics capacity or capability, this is our engine, these are like the mechanics, the models and animations and all that, and now it feels like they can improve on that.
Right. God, how do I phrase this? You probably would get different answers from different people, but I'm pretty cynical, and I have a pretty cynical outlook on this sort of thing. But I'm not just like being cynical for cynical's sake. I try and kind of back up my stuff with hard facts. So here's the facts. Here's the facts as I see them. Recom is the first game made by Osaka Team. I'm pretty sure the first Kingdom Hearts game made by Osaka Team. It had a lot of the same weird floatiness issues where combos just didn't feel very fluid. They didn't feel very snappy. They didn't feel very fast. But that game kind of survived based off the success of just Chain of Memories in general, just like how that idea was already in place. So they kind of succeeded off of that idea. And they have a lot of issues with balancing stuff. Like slates were super OP in Recom, and they were not that OP in the GBA game. So you've got this team that has that doesn't really understand how to make very fluid mechanics, and they have a lot of trouble with balancing stuff. You get the Birth by Sleep, a lot of the same stuff, really floaty combat, really floaty combos. And there's a very OP mechanic, which is the command deck, and you can just abuse the crap out of that. Fast forward to Dream Drop, same exact stuff. The coolest thing that they added was flow motion, but again, they didn't integrate it into their system very well. So, and command deck still broken, and there's a command in there that's way too good.
Balloon.
And we get to Balloon, yay! And then we get to KH3. And I mean, it's polished up a little bit, but there's definitely is a feeling of lagginess here and there in those combos, and there's definitely a lot of mechanics that just don't jive very well, and there's a lot of stuff that's just really busted and just overshadows a lot of other mechanics. It's just the way that I see it is that I don't think that Osaka Team is a bad developer. I don't think that they're like bad at making video games. I just don't think they're good at making Kingdom Hearts games, if that makes sense. Right?
That's
like
actually
I don't
a really good way to put it.
I feel like if this team was taken to do another project, like a different project for Square Enix, like a side Final Fantasy game or something like that, or something like, I don't know, something else like World of Final Fantasy, or maybe just some other new IP like a turn-based game or like a classic RPG or Bravely Default, like anything. Like if they were taken and they were put on a different team, I feel like their talents would probably be better suited for those sorts of games. But just because of circumstance, because they were kind of thrown into that role of main Kingdom Hearts developer due to the success of Recom and due to the success of Birth by Sleep, and just the way that Final Fantasy 13 Versus happened, it's just circumstance that they are stuck as the 3 developer. And I bet they're trying their ass off. I bet they're trying their ass off to try and satisfy people and try and make like a game like Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, but I just don't think they're the right team for it. And I think that's like the one way that I can see it and not be upset at Osaka Team, is that they just aren't the right team for it. But they could probably do better things on a different project.
Do you think they've improved at all?
They made Zodiac, so I'm sure there's some semblance of game design in there somewhere.
There is hope.
Like they have bursts of creativity and they have these cool ideas. It's like the little minor details that they don't really know how to get down, and then there's some moments where it feels like Kingdom Hearts games turn into just like checking off a checklist of things that are part of Kingdom Hearts. Like, all right, do we have Disney characters in there? Check. Do we have Final Fantasy characters? Don't check. Do we have like the Moogle in there? Check. Do we have like Keyblades and stuff? Check. Do we have like this? Do we have Crazy No stuff? Check. Like, and you just you focus on those sorts of things, and then your game sells as a Kingdom Hearts game. And when you do it like that, it feels like you're missing a lot of the heart and soul of what makes these Kingdom Hearts games actually work in the first place. And so they're like partially, I think that it's just Osaka Team is not the right the right team for it. And I think that Square Enix just doesn't see they don't see Kingdom Hearts the same way that they did. They kind of see it as like just a, well, you know, the flashy gameplay, you know, Disney Final Fantasy crossover. Just make a safe,
Make a
quick,
show.
you know, yeah, just make Kingdom Hearts 3. Just have these things. It'll sell. Don't worry, it'll be fine, and it does, and it sells like hotcakes. It's amazing. It's just kind of it's proof that's the sort of thing that works.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, we're running over an hour and a half. I'll let you decide how many more you want to answer, and maybe we can call it.
We can go like maybe another like 20 or 30 minutes probably.
Okay.
And I'll be okay with that.
All right, that's fair.
Let's see. Oh, this guy, I know him. He's in my chat. All right, here we go. So, Sorry91 on Reddit asks, BB, would you say that overall you're extremely critical on KH3? I'm watching others' opinion, and it seems that they're fine with some elements of the game not being spot on perfectly tuned and can tolerate, or so I think, BS to a certain extent. I have to take mental inventory a lot on how critical I am of KH3 and just Kingdom Hearts in general. And sometimes I do kind of feel like I go overboard. Like like the, I don't know, like the whole book coin discussion that happened or something. Like I feel like that got really overblown, and honestly I just feel like it doesn't really matter that much, and if anything, in a perfect world, Koopa Coin probably just needs to be nerfed a little bit and made not nearly as accessible. But even if it's not nerfed, it's not that big of a deal. I just want the game to be as good as possible. So that's kind of why I push for that sort of thing. As for like other people being fine with some elements of the game, I guess it just depends from person to person what they enjoy in a Kingdom Hearts game, and they're like willing to overlook certain things. Like for example, I don't know, like Kingdom Hearts 1 didn't have very good damage scaling, for instance, and that's the sort of thing that I get on Kingdom Hearts 3 for, that it doesn't have good damage scaling. But I can forgive KH1 because of the time period that it was made in, and it has so many other positives that I can just totally ignore the fact that it doesn't have great damage scaling, and I could still have a ton of fun with KH1. And I think that's the thing with KH3 for me, is that if there was something about the game that like I could really enjoy, and I would be able to kind of ignore some of the more minor stuff, then I would totally do that. It's just that KH3 fails on the most important aspects of the game to me, like just game design, enemy design, boss design, Sora's options, game depth. Like a lot of these things are just they're things that KH3 falls so flat on. And so a lot of the minor stuff, like the Koopa coin or whatever, is stuff that I'm actually going to get on them because they failed on, you know, delivering on the more important aspects of the game that, you know, I would be willing to ignore. I would be willing to ignore the minor stuff if they just capitalized on the more important things.
Do you think that they should have kept Koopa Coin only beginner and standard?
Okay, I think that they should just like make it more expensive, honestly. Like just make it like 5,000 money or 10,000 money or something like that, like, and that's fine. Or like make it so that it doesn't recover MP and focus or something. Like make it just only a health regenerator, and instead of like an actual elixir. That would be fine. Like just make it so that the Koopa coin actually has a cost to use it, because every other revival mechanic in the Kingdom Hearts series has a cost, a pretty hefty cost at that. and the Koopa coin does not have any cost at all. It's 400 money. That's like nothing. So just make it more expensive or something like that.
Yeah, speaking of cost, Kaiiku is brought back, Sora has to die. Equivalent exchange.
See, there's a cost. There's a trade-off. All right, there's equivalent exchange going on here. Okay.
Oh man. I mean, there's also the argument where like no one's forcing you to buy it, right?
Well, yeah, it's optional, and I mean, like, and I can get behind that, honestly. Like, yeah, it's optional, and there are a lot of things in KH2 that are also optional that if I used, it would probably make the game like significantly easier or something like that. It's just that, again, it's kind of like what I said earlier, that if they just capitalized on the more important stuff, I would not give a shit about the Koopa coin. Like, if KH3 was like dope and it had really cool enemy design and really cool bosses and really cool worlds, then I wouldn't care about the Koopa coin at all. But because it kind of messes up on the more important stuff, the Koopa coin is just like, it just sticks out, and I'm just like, I have to laugh at it, and I'm just like, that's so silly. Like, why is it only 400 money? Like, that's ridiculous.
I will say that the only reason I asked that isn't because I agree to the statement of, oh, just don't use it. But it is something that people probably are going to wonder. So,
yeah.
Because
that's a great suggestion, actually. Like, when you get revived by the Koopa coin, make it so that you have a defense debuff, so that you take more damage, and you get one shot or something like that. I don't know. I mean, well, even then, if you did it like that, then you would still probably use it just because it's an extra life. But even like, just nerf it a little bit. Give it some drawbacks to using the Koopa coin, and it just makes more sense.
I was actually really surprised when... So I was just casually playing the game, and it's like, here's this Koopa coin thing. I'm like, wait, what the hell is this? Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, after a while of playing the game and then just like sitting in the shop menu and staring at the Koopa coin, I was like, I have never seen a... Like, I think it speaks to... It speaks more to like just modern gaming, and just like how we just keep making games easier and easier so that you can win and everybody can succeed. And I don't know. I'm the sort of dude that's just like, I want to get good. I want to get better at the game, and I don't want to take the easy way out. And just seeing the easy way out just like so accessible is just like, it kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of really funny that they give you, without critical, this like extremely easy game, and they're like, by the way, in case you decide to literally AFK, here's this coin.
Right.
Like, anyway.
All right. Here's one question I think that might be a little interesting. Alex Rekacha, he asks, with the critical mode update, now you can remove attractions. This is true. There's an ability called critical converter, which turns off attractions. However, team attacks, which are as random and cheap as attractions, are still there. What is your opinion on this, and how would you rebalance them in order to make them earned and fair? Oh God, this actually gets into the game design and what I would change. Team attack, like the fact that team attacks are just random and they just like pop up out of nowhere for no reason, I think is just like, I just don't agree with it. It just kind of like, it speaks to their design philosophy that the player wants to be handed random stuff to use and feel rewarded for it, even though they didn't do anything to accomplish it. So just like team attacks are like limits. They're exactly like limits in KH1 and KH2. Just make them cost MP or something like that, and give you, so that you can, and let you be able to control when you actually use them. right? So instead of just randomly getting Duck Flare or Donald Flare or whatever, like instead of just randomly getting that one day or in the middle of a fight, it's like, okay, well, I want to do like a specific combo that leads into an air combo. And then at the end of that air combo, I want to use the Duck Flare to do extra damage to all the enemies in the area or something. Then yeah, like it lets you be more intentional. And so you just like, you pop half your MP or something like that, or all of your MP, and you get to use a really powerful limit. Like I don't see I don't see why it can't be more intentional and more used, I guess.
Do you? I want to ask this, but I really don't want to ask this at the same time. But
Oh shoot.
yeah, here we go. A lot of people will argue that KH2 Final Mix is the best game of the series, and I agree, at least to some extent, if not fully.
All right, here we go.
Yeah,
right.
here it is. You know what's coming, right?
Sure.
This isn't my question, but would you have wanted the combat in 3 to be similar, if not exactly the same as in 2? Because nothing can top 2. You knew this was coming. Here it is. Not my question, by the way.
The age-old question.
The century-old question.
No, like I and I mean that's the thing, is that like everybody's gonna see like how I compare, a lot of the issues with KH3 to the better stuff in KH2, but it's like when I look at a game like Kingdom Hearts 3, I see like so many cool ideas going on at once. And I see like, the scale that people are going for, and the interesting designs of enemies, and the boss fights at the very end of the game. Like I see so much cool stuff going on. Like I see flow motion, and I see like so much infinite potential with how that could affect combat as a whole if you designed it differently. Like being able to like wall run or something like that. Like why wouldn't I be able to like fight a boss while I'm wall running or something like that? Like do like a standard combo while wall running or something like that. Like maybe air step, like instead of being able to like air step to the boss, maybe like air step to like some aspect of the wall so that I can like do some sort of combo extension. I don't know, just like there are lots and lots of cool ideas that Osaka has. It's just that when it comes to like the nitty gritty, like balancing it out, and not even necessarily balancing out, just making it fun and making it feel like the player has a lot of intention going on behind their gameplay, and they're thinking things through and thinking through their options and how they can use them together against a certain fight or boss fight to make it work. It's just the way that they implement it, it never seems to work out. So no, I really wouldn't I wouldn't want a clone of KH2, but at the same time, there are aspects of KH2 that are just like so like in term like player control or something like that, like just combos feeling really responsive and really quick and snappy and stuff like that, and the physics. Yeah, sure, I would just take that stuff from 2FM. Like that's not me saying I want 2FM back in KH3. Like I don't want every game to be like 2FM. I'm saying that 2FM has good 2FM has like they have good physics. It's a really good base. It's a good base combat system to work off of. So it makes all the sense in the world. Why would you just not base to start with making Kingdom Hearts 3? It's like the transition between Kingdom Hearts 1 to Kingdom Hearts 2. It's like Kingdom Hearts 1 is a really good base with how the pacing of the fights go, with the limits, with the combo system, with the ability system, just how Sora physics, how Sora very quickly transitions from, doing a combo in the air to getting on the ground. And then they take that and they go to KH2 and they make Sora more or less feel the same as he did in KH1, but they add stuff to it. And they add a whole new system, and and it feels great. And that's because they use KH1 as a base, and they wanted to, they wanted things to feel consistent and feel snappy, but also try out new ideas. So just use KH2 as the foundation. Like build the bricks of your house that is Kingdom Hearts 3. Make those starting building bricks off of what KH2 created in the first place. Use KH2 as the foundation, and then when you want to go crazy and make your house more, stylish, or you want to try, different roofing or whatever. Like, I'm going crazy with this analogy, but like when you want to make your house unique, when you want to make your game unique, then that's when you can add in the new ideas and try and implement those, and just use KH2 as the base, and it makes the game feel a lot more fluid and consistent. That's kind of how I see KH2. Is like, it's not like I want the game to be transplanted over. I just want the things that made KH2 so good to carry over to KH3, and then you try out new ideas to make it a unique game. That's what everybody does in a sequel. That's what like Jak 1, Jak 2, Jak 3, like they are all wildly different games, but you still control the same exact Jak and Daxter through Jak 1, Jak 2, and Jak 3 because he feels good to control, and you want that consistent experience. It's the same exact thing. That's pretty much how I would answer that question.
You know what? I had to ask it, but I think that this finally. I think we can put it to rest here. Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to rest.
Probably not, but hopefully whoever listens to this will stop asking this. So actually on YouTube over here, there's Adam Ansari that's asks, how do you feel about people saying you can't compare KH3 with 2 Final Mix because you could only compare 3 with Vanilla 2?
Oh, right. I mean, I can respect that comparison because because just kind of like tradition, and that the game just came out and there is more content to be had. So we should I can understand like people being like, well, wait until the final product is out when all the DLC is out, and then we can compare it to FM. But at the same time, a lot of like fundamental things about the video game, like when I say fundamental things, I mean like enemy design, so our controls, how strong magic is, how strong links are, etc., etc. Those are the sorts of things that are going to really stick out, and those are also the sorts of things that aren't guaranteed to be changed by the end of Kingdom Hearts 3's lifespan. So when you go out and you hear people saying like, wow, magic is way too OP in KH3, and KH3 still feels floaty, or it feels like it's not nearly as responsive, and people say, well, that's not fair, you shouldn't say that, wait until the game is like fully out. I'm just like, well, these are fair comparisons. Now when people say like there aren't any secret bosses in the game, or there's not enough content, I'm just like, okay, well, that's fair, because Vanilla KH2 had Sephiroth and there wasn't as much content either. So you know what, that's fair. I can totally understand. I can understand that stuff. That's not fair to make those sorts of comparisons. Like, oh my god, there's only one secret boss in the game. What do you mean? Like, that's fair, because the game is just it just came out and there's still more content coming out. But like when I talk about like stuff like Scala, I'm like, that's the sort of thing where I'm like, that was cut at the final moment, and it's obvious, and I sure hope that makes it into the game at some point via DLC. Otherwise, I'm going to be really upset, because that was a missed opportunity.
Scala. What could have been incredible?
Oh, dude, it would have been amazing. We could have had our 5-phase, dragon Dragon Xehanort.
Also, freaking Twilight Town, man. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of give. I mean, I'm still upset about Twilight Town. I kind of give it a fair shake just because maybe they just didn't see Twilight Town as like the big hub that KH2 was. Like Scala, there's no excuse. Scala better be in the game by the end of the DLC. Otherwise, I'll be really upset.
Yeah, yes, but it's like, why? Like, it almost feels like, why would you even put Twilight Town at this point? Like, it could have been just one of those cutscene Radiant Garden esque things.
Yeah,
like,
that's another. That's a good
tease.
Point. It is a good point. Yeah.
And then some will argue 100 Acre Woods was also a tease. It's like, no, we've had enough of that. Or at least I think.
Yeah, I get that.
All right, your call.
One more question. Just
Okay.
one more. Let's see.
Maybe I should have left that big one at the end.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. So Tybus on Reddit. This is the final question. I'm just gonna go over one question. He has 3, but I'm gonna only go with one. When you play a game, when you play 2FM as much as you do, how do boss fights stay fun? Do you think the revenge value system is too predictable and easy to cheese once you learn it? I understand that speedrunners really appreciate reliability over RNG, but how do you not get bored? You just try out new things. You just approach the fight differently a lot of the time. Like, I don't know, when I was first, like, let's take like the Data Larkscene fight or something. So the first time I fought it, I mean, it was really, really tough. And you kind of, you work through it and you get that first victory. Just, not using many drives, not using many, I mean, it's maybe in a lot of reflects and ethers and stuff. And then you kind of like approach it and you're just like, dude, what if I try out like final form a lot? What if I try out using limit form in certain situations? What if I just like tried to play really spontaneous and just make my own crazy wild fight, just kind of playing off the cuff, especially after you play the game for long enough and you kind of understand how Larkscene retaliates and all the ins and outs of the fight. That's kind of just when the experience is consistent and you have revenge value working the way that it is and you understand how it works, that's when you get to be freeform. That's when you get to try out a bunch of different things and just enjoy the system that is 2FM and just play, just do wacky stuff, and it just kind of like works out. And that's not necessarily because the game is boring, but it's because you've actually put in the time and effort to get good at the fight. And that's kind of like you reap the rewards, you reap the benefits by being able to play in a wacky, wild fashion against Larkscene. That's kind of how I see it nowadays. And I've heard a lot of people say like, oh well, I'm really glad that in Birth by Sleep, because that makes the Vanitas fight, it keeps you on your toes. You never know what to expect. And I understand the sentiment, but in practice, it's horrible. Like in practice, it never works out like that. It works to restrict you because you never know what's going to happen. So you don't get to be as freeform as you want to. You have to back off and play campy as hell. RNG, yeah, exactly. RNG just kind of makes it frustrating and makes the experience way less enjoyable in a lot of scenarios. Yeah, that's my answer. People don't actually say that. Oh, they do. Oh no, they if you look hard enough, you will definitely find people that say, well, I'm glad that enemies retaliate randomly because that makes the fight more spontaneous, and you never know what to expect and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster if it goes too far.
Yeah, it really is. It sure is.
All right, do we want to take any final questions, or is this?
I think I'm good.
You're good.
I think that's good right there.
Awesome. All right, so thank you everyone for tuning in. This was a solid AMA, I think. Thanks, Bloody, for or I don't know, do you prefer BB?
Yeah. Either way, dude,
All
it was
right.
it was a pleasure. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks for being the first to participate in this. Big
yeah.
shout out to you and your Twitch. If you don't follow and your YouTube, if you don't follow him, do that. And also, well, whoever's watching this on YouTube, thanks for tuning in, and for Twitch as well. And I guess we'll see you guys next time.